Also, right here in Riverside County, some gruesome and shocking murders from the 1920s are the basis for the new movie Changeling. KMIR 6 reporter Ciara Coyle and photojournalist Joshua Jenkins take us to the scene of the infamous chicken coop murders.
On a quiet, unassuming road in rural Riverside County will always sit the site of the chicken coop murders. 4 young boys were kidnapped, tortured, sexually assaulted, and killed here at the hands of this man, Gordon Stewart Northcott, and his mother. And there may have been more victims. Steve Leck is a prominent Riverside County historian. He consulted with movie producers on the accuracy of Changeling.
The movie is really about Christine Collins and her plight.
I want my son back. I want my son back!
But Steve says the movie only skims the surface of the torment the boys experienced here. At the age of 19 in 1926, Gordon Stewart Northcott moved from cosmopolitan Los Angeles out to the country to the town of Wineville in Riverside County. Northcott and his mother Louise ran a swift business selling chickens and eggs, but Northcott used the chicken coops to conceal his sick and twisted perversions.
He kind of saw himself as having a little kingdom here. He wanted a place where he could be out and basically use boys.
Northcott would go out driving. When he spotted some boys he liked, he offered them a ride home, only to bring them here instead. Through his research, Steve found records showing Northcott kidnapped upward of 20 boys, drove them all here to Wineville, and likely abused all of them. But he eventually took his victims home.
But there were a few that were kept here for long enough that they, quote unquote, knew too much.
Those few included brothers Nelson and Louis Winslow from Pomona. He took Christine Collins' son Walter from LA.
And also one other kid just simply described as a headless Mexican.
The Winslow boys and Walter Collins were kept captive at the ranch for months, while frantic parents put out pleas for help to local police. Northcott even kidnapped his own 15-year-old nephew, Sanford Clark, from his home in Canada.
He had used him too, and the nephew got into the murders also. The nephew's sister came down here to check on him because she was suspicious of what was going on. She tried to take him out, and Northcott became enraged and threatened them all with a gun.
She took off back to Canada, but not before calling immigration authorities. Louise Northcott knew her son's reign of abuse might soon be found out.
His mother basically told him, you've got to get rid of these kids.
Gordon Northcott had already killed the headless Mexican boy. He later murdered the Winslow boys. Louise Northcott insisted that she, Sanford, and Gordon all take part in killing Walter Collins, so they would all be equally guilty. Northcott said to have butchered the boys' bodies, then he took their bones to the desert and burned them.
Because when he buried the kids in the chicken coops, there he would, of course, cover them with dirt and then let the chickens run around them. And typically what Northcott would do was bury it, and then he'd reinter it and bury it in quicklime, hoping that it would decay a lot quicker. So they found fragments, they found a few little things here, but not all that much. Northcott was very much one of these sly characters who would lead people astray. So he'd come out and tell you it's here, then they dig, well, no, maybe it was over here.
Gordon Northcott's murder trial started in 1929. 99-year-old John Gabbert was a first-year law student then, and now one of the only people still alive who witnessed those proceedings.
That courtroom was one of the largest courtrooms in California, and it was filled with people, and people waiting to get in.
Northcott represented himself after he fired his attorneys.
But he was a very confident guy, self-confident, overconfident, of course, as to his ability to try the case for himself.
Gordon Stewart Northcott was found guilty very quickly here at the historic Riverside County Courthouse. He was convicted on 3 of the 4 definite murders that occurred at the Wineville Ranch. He was sentenced to death. At San Quentin, Northcott became one of the last criminals to hang in California before it was outlawed in the mid-30s. Today, Northcott's Wineville house still stands, but the town changed its name from Wineville to Mira Loma because of the chicken coop murder stigma. Noemi Alvarado's lived on the Northcott property for 20 years.
I've never, in my whole life, living here, never a feeling, oh, what's that?
Noemi says her mother raised chickens here on this property for years. Hundreds of them roamed all over this area. But she says the entire time she had no idea of the horrific crimes that happened inside the chicken coops nearly 80 years ago. Noemi's family chicken coop still sits on their property.
I'll probably live here as long as I could because I love this house.
But like just about everyone who finds out about the case, she agrees the Wineville chicken coop murders amount to one of the most despicable crimes ever in Riverside County.
And of course, that was Ciara Coyle reporting. Amazing story.
Yeah, gruesome, but insightful, huh?
Yeah, well told.
Yes.